juxtaposing, for example, on the one hand, the D-Day invasion, which we know now, of course, was the beginning of the end of the Nazi Reich, and it opened up the Western Front, but there were tremendous risks, of course, involved in this. There was months of planning. If that had gone differently, it could have prolonged the war. Who knows what would have happened? It would have changed things with the Soviets. So a tremendous risk, but an understanding of what national security interests were. A time, Will, where there would have been no dissension, really, no real dissension among Americans about the interest in defeating Nazi Germany. Now you go to today, and we have a president who's essentially boiled it all down to, I won't do stupid stuff, and that means often not doing anything at all. The problem is, and the lesson that the Obama administration should have learned, and they have not yet learned, is that sometimes doing nothing is the stupid stuff you are trying to avoid. Sometimes being minimalist in all of your approaches can, in fact, bring about worse consequences than if you had gone in whole hog with the cavalry.
Well, I think there's plenty to criticize even on what President Obama has chosen to do. We could talk about setting red lines in Syria. Those are positive actions. But to your point, Buck, I want to be careful we don't fall down the Clintonian rabbit hole of defining words so abstractly and asking ourselves what is, but do is interesting, because it's not just about what you do, it's what you don't do that can be very, very stupid.
Right. Right. Well, I want to go back to history and what we're talking about today and this day 70 years ago. And you said that there wasn't a lot of dissent, but there actually was, particularly before the war. There was a lot of debate in this country about what our role should be. There's a great essay in The New Republic by Bob Kagan about sort of the evolution of America's role in the world. But what it took was a leadership from someone like Franklin Roosevelt and later Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower and presidents on down the road that took that debate and said, this is where America ought to be. We ought to be leading. And I think the difference now is not that we have this debate, we have this dissent. It's that we don't have leadership that's sort of bringing the people along and saying, hey, this is a world that's dangerous without America.
It's a question. It's not that there wasn't dissent. It's that on the eve of the Normandy invasion, the American people were behind that action. Obviously, there's been a long and storied history of opposition in the First World War and even in the Second World War. But at that point in time, I think if we had national polling, most people would have been like, yeah, we should go after the Nazis.
And I think when you juxtapose these two